A very good afternoon to all. We are just going to start the session by 3:30. So stay tuned with us. Namaskar, ma'am. Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
That was because I had.
Acha, ji ma'am.
Audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, so I can see there's a.
Yes, ma'am. So many principals from affiliated colleges have joined, and some are joining.
Okay.
So we'll start by 3:30 or 3:35, ma'am, with your prior permission.
Okay.
Ji.
Okay.
Ji.
Whenever. Hi, Juhi.
Ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. Practical is going on.
Yeah, something is going on.
Hello, Sachin sir. Yes, ma'am. 2 to 5 is my practical class.
Hello,
Hello,
ma'am.
Sachin
Namaskar.
sir.
Ji, ma'am. Namaskar.
Namaste, sir.
Namaskar, ma'am.
Good job and best wishes, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
कितना टाइम है सर? आ गए स्पीकर?
Ma'am, speaker has joined, or within 2-3 minutes we are going to start.
Okay.
Ji.
I am here to note down everything.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chalo, that's a good thing. But in any case, I think this is being recorded.
Yes, ma'am. It is being recorded by computer side. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay. Okay.
Acha, when I speak, is there an echo or something?
No, ma'am. Not at all.
Okay. There's a small delay, so I myself can hear twice.
Okay. But here there is no problem.
There's no problem.
Actually, multiple speakers are on, ma'am. This is because of that reason. If everyone
Okay.
is muted, then there will be no problem.
No problem. Yeah. Rathore sahab kab aa rahe?
Ma'am, Rathore sir is not joining with us because I came to know yesterday from him that his mother-in-law has expired in Jaipur.
Oh.
So yes,
Okay,
so
he's
I just sent you the workshop schedule, ma'am. Presidential address will be given by Professor Hanuman sir, who has joined us.
Okay.
Yes, जी ma'am.
नमस्कार मैडम.
नमस्ते साहब. चलिए, थैंक यू सो मच कि राठौर साहब के जगह.
सचिन जी के आग्रह को कोई नकार नहीं सकता मैडम.
True.
Sir, my pleasure.
And he does it so nicely, you don't have the heart to refuse.
Correct, madam. Correct.
So, ma'am, if you permit, can we start? Participants or faculties will join meanwhile.
Have the main speakers come? Are they
Yes,
on?
ma'am. Sachin sir from QS Rankings, he has joined with us. Meanwhile, second resource person will join as message conveyed by Sachin sir. So if you permit, with prior permission, can we start or we have to wait some time?
Oh, okay. I think we can.
Okay. So can we proceed, ma'am? Okay. So very good afternoon to each and one present here in today's workshop. It is matter a great extreme pleasure to welcome the guests who are present here to attend this workshop. So on behalf of MLS University Udaipur, I offer my regards to all the professors, heads, directors, and other faculties of our own university, MLS University Udaipur, and the principals of affiliated colleges who have joined with us. I convey my regards to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir Professor Amrika Singh Ji. Sir, as we know that this topic of national workshop is ranking and ratings as catalyst for quality improvement. So definitely it will include more issues to address the full aspect of the topic. And as we know that ranking play a vital role globally. So QS has a worldwide reach in which academic performance, employer reputation, faculty-student ratio, and BEV presence are given more credibility. So we have eminent resource person for this workshop from QS IGOS rankings, Mr. Sachin Kumar sir with us, and Dr. Ashwin Fernandez sir, who is CEO of QS IGOS and Regional Director QS for South Asia, MENA and Africa, will be joining soon. So I wish this workshop will enlighten us all and will provide us with approaches to deal with the various aspects of ranking issues. And so in this series, as we have tradition in our university to start any event with Kulgeet of our university, so I'll request everyone to please stand up for Kulgeet and don't clap after Kulgeet. Yes. Pritam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
शील ज्ञान विज्ञान कर्म संगम को कोटि नमन। सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम की प्रतिमा कल्याणी। विद्या विन्दते अमृतम उपनिषदों की वाणी। यह प्रताप की कर्म भूमि के माथे का चंदन। मीरा का निष्काम भक्ति से है अटूट बंधन। श्री एकलिंग जी श्रीनाथ जी चार भुजा बेश्वर। सूफी संतों की धरती में माना एक ईश्वर। वीर भूमि के ज्ञान पीठ का सागर शतवंदन। यहाँ साधना रत प्रतिभाएं ज्योतिर्मंत्र बने। राष्ट्र धर्म का स्वर विजयी हो महिमावंत बने। मुक्त गगन में आदर्शों की पुण्य ध्वजा फहरे। जनमानस में ज्ञान ज्योति का दिव्य प्रकाश भरे। ज्ञानदायिनी मूर्तिमंत महिमा का अभिनंदन। युवा शक्ति हो सत्यनिष्ठ संकल्पित अंतर्मन। वीर भूमि के ज्ञान पीठ का सागर शतनंदन। शील ज्ञान विज्ञान कर्म संगम को कोटि नमन। कोटि नमन। कोटि नमन। कोटि नमन।
Thank you, Pritam. Now I would request our Director IQAC MLS University, Professor N. Lakshmi Ma'am, to propose welcome address to our resource persons for today's workshop. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Sachin. So, as Sachin has already said, that I am currently the director or coordinator for the IQAC cell of this university. So basically, I'm from the physics department, and currently this is with me. So I'm really honored to welcome all of you to this workshop, and so I can see a lot of people with us. So Professor Hanuman Prasad, who is the Chairman, Faculty of Management Studies of Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur, will be delivering the presidential address. Dr. Sachin Gupta, I think, is by now familiar to all of you, and he is the organizing secretary of this workshop and the coordinator of national rankings in our university. A warm welcome to Mr. Sachin Kumar, who is the QS iGauge QS rankings, and and who is in fact, I believe, who has been in touch constantly with our Sachin to make this workshop materialize. A warm welcome also to Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, who is the CEO of QS iGauge and Regional Director, QS for South Asia, Middle East and Northern Africa, and the rest of Africa. All deans, directors, principals of colleges, all faculty members, and all participants. So good afternoon, everyone. And so this was something about some of the players of today's workshop. And the background for this is that our university has been participating consistently in the QS ranking since 2018. And currently, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor America Singh, is the Vice Chancellor, who is a very dynamic person. And he is passionate about quality-based education, and insists that all institutions which are associated, not only just the university, but all institutions which are associated with us, such as the affiliated colleges, etc., are also a part of this progress towards or march towards quality-based education. For him, nothing is too small not to take an active interest in order to fulfill the vision and mission of this university. Today, he would have joined us, but he is engaged otherwise, and so he could not participate in this workshop. Now, for the year 2022, which is based on the data of 2021, our university is in the 76 to 80 band of Indian universities, and falls in the 601 to 650 band of the Asian universities rankings. Now, the whole point of this workshop is to make people familiar with the concept of ranking, and everybody will agree now that ranking is an important aspect for any institution. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean only educational institutions. It could mean anywhere. In fact, unconsciously, we all do this. We look for what is the best depending upon whatever we are looking for. Now, so it could be a business, it could be a brand, it could be a product, and of course, in our case, educational institutions. But unlike many other places, ranking an educational institution is an extremely complex process. The whole process is about assigning a number, or rather a range of number based on widely diverse parameters, each of which has to be assessed quantitatively. Now, qualitatively, you can say better, best, vagera, but if you need to compare across institutions and also give a number to our own institution, that exercise is going to be a highly complex one, as can be imagined. So as a scientist, speaking, and that too from the physics discipline of physics. This is something I can personally relate to because for us, relative quantities are okay, fine, but generally the mantra is to speak with numbers. Now, speaking with numbers is an absolute thing once the number is produced, but how do you produce that number? And that is what this workshop is all about. So QS, which is globally there, assesses the institutions and has laid down some certain stringent guidelines for assessment of these institutions on not only on a global level, but also on a regional basis. Now, a global comparison is, of course, necessary, but it is also important to see how any given institution stands within its own region, as the playing field or the parameters are almost comparable within a certain region. And I think it is in this sense that the division has been made. Now, in the strictest sense, these exercises are meant for introspection and to identify any lacunae that exists in the overall functioning of the institution. And this will in turn determine the outcome. So how that is exactly done will be told by the resource persons. So what this leads to is addressing of these shortcomings. And the ultimate goal is to go for better and better quality. I mean, there is no such thing as saturation. There is always room for improvement. So we are all familiar with a lot of such rankings. NIRF, it is mandatory. Then we have the, of course, NAC, which is something, again, which is tends to, or the purpose here is to increase the quality or, make an institution come up to a certain level which is expected, and so on. Even those have their own way of assessing these criteria, but we are not going to go into that. QS is one such ranking system, which also has a global presence. The people who are associated with QS iGauge India who are here with us, namely Mr. Sachin Kumar and Dr. Fernandez, will be addressing these aspects a lot more, and they are the right persons to do this. And the whole purpose of this workshop is so that the participants who are from various institutions, educational institutions, can ask them and clear their doubts about how this is done and what more can be done with respect to their university institution, time permitting, of course. Now, as the name of this workshop hints, they will be focusing on the quality improvement afforded by exercises such as participation in ratings and rankings. So without much further ado and not coming in between you and the experts, I warmly welcome all of you once again to this workshop, and you are really in for a treat. Okay, thank you so much. Over to Sachin.
Ji. Thank you so much, ma'am. We always need your blessings and support for overall upgradation of our MLS University in terms of achieving highest rankings. And thank you so much, ma'am. So now for presidential address, I would like to invite Professor Hemant Prasad, sir, Director and Faculty Chairman, Faculty of Management Studies, for his brief remarks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sachin. Respected Professor N. Lakshmi Madam, the speakers of today's workshop, Aswin ji and Sachin ji, and the organizing secretary, again Sachin ji. So this workshop, I think, has started with or has been organized by few great names. Lakshmi, as we understand. Then Sachin, the name Sachin has created a lot of, success mantra, like our Sachin Tendulkar was there. So both Sachins are there. And Aswin ji, wherein win is already there. So that means it's a win-win game. This workshop is a win-win game. So therefore, I would like to congratulate, first of all, the organizers and all participants who are present here, that you are entering into a cause, a thing which is going to add value to your organization. As far as my understanding is concerned, particularly with the terminology quality, traditionally it was defined as conformance to the standards, because I too have done research in the area of quality. So conformance to the standards is the quality. And coming to the educational institutions, again there are standards as far as the student teacher ratio is concerned, as far as the library infrastructure is concerned, as far as the physical infrastructure is concerned. And moreover this, the voice of customers, the voice of students is also one of the components of ranking or rating any institution, I think. As far as the QS ranking is concerned, I think India is yet trying to attain more number into the institutions. I just wish to bring into the notice of the externals, that is the participants, that is the experts, that Mohanlal Sukhadia University has been doing excellent in almost all spheres. May it be academics, we have a lot of research published, particularly Scopus research published. As far as the social service is concerned, the university is doing excellent. As far as the sports is concerned, university is again doing excellent. Our students are happily, or let's say very well satisfied as far as the teachers' performance in the class is concerned. So everywhere we are doing well. But I think this workshop will give us a direction, will give us a shape that strategically how should we move to attain some position in QS ranking. As I was informed that only 2-3 institutions are there who have attained in first 200 institutions, that is of India. So therefore, not taking much time, I would like to say that we would be listening you sincerely. We would be looking at the suggestions which you are going to offer us. Further, if there are some doubts, you would be clarifying it. One more thing I wish to share, that a lot of our affiliated colleges have also joined. And as our affiliated colleges have joined, any institution cannot grow individually, cannot grow in loneliness, or let's say singly we cannot move ahead. We need all our participants, all our affiliated colleges also to grow with us, and that is how we are going to create a mark in the world. Therefore, once again, I would like to congratulate all the people, organizers, and also on behalf of Honorable Vice Chancellor, I wish to convey blessings to all the participants and organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for motivating us with your highly inspiring words. And we always look for our blessings and kind support, sir, in order to step on highest ladder of success. Thank you once again, sir. So without taking so much time, I hand over this session to our resource person, Mr. Sachin Kumar ji from QS IGOS QS Rankings. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Good afternoon, everyone. So in next 1 odd hour, I'll take you through the presentation on QS rankings as well as QS iGauge rating. We'll get into the details of the methodology and how can university further improve their chances of being ranked in both Asia as well as in the world university rankings. But before that, I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Amarika Singh, for agreeing to arrange this workshop for the affiliated colleges and the departments, and Professor Lakshmi for setting the tone of this session, and Professor Hanuman Prasad, and Dr. Gupta, of course, for coordinating and arranging this workshop. So let me just share my screen, and I would request you to ask, stop me and ask if you have any questions at any point of time, because towards the end, if we wait till the end, then it might be difficult for us to probably remember all the points and all the parameters that we have on different slides. So please feel free to stop me and ask if you have any specific questions on any specific slide. Let me just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to you all.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes.
Okay. So I handle client relations for India, whereas QS, though we do multiple things, but I think two important verticals are important from the perspective of Indian higher education institutions, and that goes for MLSU as well. One is QS rankings, and the second part is QS iGauge ratings. So I'll get into the details of both of them. And my job basically is to help the institutions in understanding what all parameters do we have, how we can improve our chances of getting into rankings, and then also helping them in understanding what all other initiatives do we have, and how can universities and colleges particularly can benefit from that aspect as well. So Mr. Nunzio Quecurelli is the founder of QS, and that is where the Q of QS comes. And though we are doing multiple things, and we do rankings, we do ratings, we are into consulting as well, we do events, we have softwares and everything else. But the mission of the organization is to enable motivated people around the world to fulfill their potential by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. So students are at the center of everything that QS does, even through the rankings, though they are being used for multiple purposes by the corporates, by the enterprises, by other academic institutions for for identifying the right kind of institutions for academic partnerships, research partnerships, and so on. But the ultimate aim is to provide correct options to the students, those who are searching for the right kind of higher education institutions. So our website, topuniversities.com, is visited by more than 100 million unique visitors every year, primarily the students. So if a student is going abroad, then by default, they'll go through topuniversities.com to understand more about the education institute which they are considering for their higher education. And that is actually the motive behind all the rankings and ratings that we are doing, to provide that credible and authenticated information to the students, those who are looking for the admissions in the higher education institutions. Those who are not aware or may not have an idea about what QS is, we have been there as an organization for last 31 years. The first project was to publish a top MBA career guide. We still do lots of MBA rankings. We have executive MBA rankings, we have employability rankings, we have global MBA rankings, online MBA rankings. And then the most popular ones are, of course, QS World University rankings. Then we have QS Asia rankings. And then like Asia, we have lots of other regional rankings as well. And then we have something called QS Stars rating, QS iGauge rating, which I will certainly talk in detail. QS Stars is our international rating system that we are doing in the world for last 12 years and rated thousands of universities in the world. If we look at the organization today, we have close to 600 staff members. We have offices in Mumbai and Bangalore. So close to 40% of our workforce is in India. So all the data related to global rankings of QS is processed in our Mumbai office. And then we have a different team based out of Bangalore. And then another team which looks after the ratings of Indian higher education institutions, be it the colleges or the universities of the world. Just to give you an idea about QS World University rankings, we get the data of close to 6,000 universities from close to 80 countries. And every year, in the process of getting these universities ranked, we reach out to millions of academicians every year. I'll shed more light on it in the coming slides. So I've divided the presentation into two parts, QS rankings, and then I'll get into the details of QS iGauge ratings. QS rankings are meant only for universities, be it affiliated university or a private university or a central government university. So only a self-degree awarding body can participate in QS rankings. And that is true in case of all the rankings of ours, be it subject or Asia or Word or any other ranking. Whereas ratings are meant for both universities and colleges. So the later part will be more relevant for the representatives of colleges as well, those who have joined on this call. But as Professor Prasad mentioned during his address, that university is eventually the sum total of all the institutions that it has, of all the faculty members that are there, who in some or the other way are associated with the university. So rankings, though they can play a limited role in it and in improving the ranking of Mohanlal Sukhadia University, but still there is a role to play, and I think that can be taken up by the respective faculty members. So getting into the methodology of QS World University rankings, we keep hearing about those top 200 list, top 1000 list, but not many of us are actually aware as what exactly goes behind it and how do we publish those rankings. So this is a very simple ranking methodology that we have for World University rankings. Academic reputation gets 40% weightage here, then employer reputation 10%, faculty student ratio 20%, citations per faculty 20%, 5% weightage to international faculty, and 5% weightage to international students. So let me just get into the details of each one of them. Academic reputation is basically a survey of academicians. So this is a parameter for which the university does not need to submit any data, but there is certainly an option to do that. And let me just explain it how. So for academic reputation survey, QS reaches out to close to 500,000 academicians every year between February and April. And when we reach out to them, we ask them a very simple question, whereas they are expected to nominate up to 10 domestic universities wherever they are located. So if you are in Switzerland, then you can nominate 10 universities from Switzerland, and then you can nominate up to 30 universities from anywhere outside your home country. So every academician gets an opportunity to nominate 10 domestic and 30 international universities in their respective fields. If you're a professor of chemical engineering, then we'll request you to nominate up to 10 domestic and 30 international universities, which can be from anywhere in the world. So when they are on that page, they get a drop-down list which has close to 20,000 universities already listed on it. But still, if some name is missing, then they can certainly add the name of that university and they can nominate the institute. So the university which gets maximum nominations will get 100 percentile in this, and then others will get some percentile with respect to the best ranked university in this particular category. So it's a very simple process of doing it, but actual work has gone behind building that database that we have done over a period of last 15 years. And though it's not mandatory for the participating university to provide any data when it comes to academic reputation parameter per se, but there is an option. And that option is that every participating university can submit a list of 400 academicians, up to 400 academicians, which are in some or the other way associated with the university. I mean, they should not be the employees of the university, because an employee cannot vote for his or her own university, but you can submit a list of academicians which are, which you are doing some sort of joint research with, or you have some sort of academic collaboration with the universities, both within India and outside India. I'm not sure whether that has been done so far or not, but that is an option which is available. and it will certainly help the university in improving some ranks if you get the nominations, because these 400 academicians are likely to know about the work, the research that Mohanlal Sukhadia University is doing, and there are better chances that when survey goes to them, they will nominate the university. So that option is available between now and 3rd of February. You can upload that particular list, and you can prepare that list in the meantime. You can simply upload it in a particular format that is available on the website of iu.qs.com. Moving on to the next parameter, that is employer reputation survey. So again, we do not ask for the placement records of the university. We don't actually ask them about the percentage of placement or the kind of packages which are being gained by the students. Rather, we reach out to the employers, and we reach out to close to 2.5 lakh employers again every year. And we ask these employers to nominate the universities which are providing them best of the students. So in that way, here also the option is available, and that again is optional. If you don't want to do that, don't do that. But if you submit a list of 400 employers which are probably recruiting from the university, from various departments of the university, or you may be having some special connections with them, you can submit that list, and then that again will improve the chances of the university getting some nominations from the employers. So again, all the employers, when we reach out to them through that survey, through that mail, we'll ask them to nominate up to 10 domestic and 30 international universities in the same way. So this again, as an option, is available. You can submit a list of 400 academicians, and you can submit a list of 400 employers as well. Next is faculty-student ratio. That is simply the number of students divided by total number of faculty members. So here, this is a parameter where you can't really do much instantly, because being a government university, recruitment is something which has its own set of dynamics, and it depends on lots of things which are there. So if you want to update the data, you can update that. Otherwise, QS will keep using the data which is already there in the portal. But if there are some updates, if you have some additions, if you have recruited some more faculty members, probably you can update that data in the portal. Next is citations per faculty. So here we'll consider the citations of last 6 years, and we will look at only at Scopus listed journals, the papers which are published in the Scopus listed journals. So here a role can be played by the affiliated colleges as well. So say, for example, if your faculty members are publishing papers, particularly in Scopus, because we are talking about Scopus here, then the faculty member can give primary affiliation to the college which he or she represents, but the secondary affiliation can be given to Mohanlal Sukhadia University. I'm not sure again whether that is already being done. If not, then it will be a good idea if the secondary affiliation can be given to Mohanlal Sukhadia University, because when we search it on Scopus, we'll search it with the name of the university, and depends on how many papers are affiliated to the university, we'll again look at the citations in the same manner. So this will certainly help the university again if we are getting significant research work done at the affiliated colleges or even the respective departments. It also happens in and we have noticed in some of the cases where the faculty members, when they are publishing papers, they mention the department they are representing, but not the university in some cases. Or they may be different nomenclatures altogether. Say, for example, Faculty of Management and then /MLSU, or you may be using some other nomenclature. So here, I think some sort of standards can be maintained and conveyed by the university to all the departments as well as to the affiliated colleges, that there has to be a standard nomenclature. If it has to be Mohanlal Sukhadia University, then that is what it is, and anything else, any other name, any other abbreviation cannot be used in place of that. That will again help when we are searching the papers through Scopus, because here again we will not ask the university to provide any data at all. We will rather reach out to Scopus directly and we'll take it from there. Then next is international faculty. Again, 5% weightage to that, and then 5% weightage to international students. So this is a very simple methodology that we have of QS World University Rankings. Please feel free to ask if you have any questions here. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, that is Asia Rankings methodology. In 2022 Asia Rankings, the university got rank of 601 to 650 at, as mentioned by Dr. Lakshmi. But the university is yet to debut in the World University Rankings, and that is where I think some efforts in that direction will certainly help the university in reaching there. Plus, it will certainly help in improving your ranks in the Asia rankings as well. So when we look at World University Rankings, we have 25 universities from India, which are there in the top 1000 list that we publish. And overall, 35 universities in a list of 1300 universities that we published. We have lots of state government universities, but the list is dominated by, of course, the central government funded institutions like IITs, ISC Bangalore, then a few central government universities. And in global rankings, we have one private university as well. That is in top 1000 I'm talking about. That is OP Jindal Global University, Sonipat. When we talk about Asia rankings, then in a list of 685 universities that we published, we have 117 from India. We have lots of private universities, lots of state government universities as well in this list. And when we look at the methodology of Asia rankings, it's again almost the same, but we have done some tweaking in terms of the parameters that we have. We have added a few new parameters as well. So first one is academic reputation. It remains the same, methodology remains the same, but the weightage has gone down from 40 to 30%. Next is employer reputation. Here the in World University Rankings, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Okay, so the employer reputation in World University Rankings, we give it 10% weightage, whereas in Asia Rankings, that is given 20% weightage. Methodology remains same. Faculty student ratio gets 10% weightage here. We have added staff with PhD, and we have added papers per faculty as well. Whereas in World University Rankings, we don't talk about the number of papers, we talk about the citations only. Here, 5% weightage to papers per faculty has also been given, but we will look at only Scopus listed journals and the papers, those are being published in that list. 10% weightage to citations per paper, it is 20% in case of the World University Rankings. Then 10% weightage to international research network, and then 10% weightage to international campus. So I will elaborate about international research network and international campus in the further slides. But the papers per faculty, we understand total number of papers divided by total number of faculty members. And we'll look at the data of last 5 years. In this case, 5% weightage to staff with PhD. That is the, we'll take the current year's data from the university. Getting into the details of research, citations 10%, papers per faculty 5% weightage. It's clear. I think we don't need to get into the details of it. We all understand. International Research Network 10% database, 10% weightage in the Asia University Rankings. Here again, we'll look at the Elsevier's Scopus database only, and it focuses on the diversity of international collaborations. So the number of different collaborations you have with different universities and then the output part of it in terms of research. So how many papers are being published in collaboration with 3 or more faculty members in a particular faculty area over a 5-year time period. So the kind of joint research collaborations you have and the kind of joint research work that is being done, that will give you 10% weightage in case of international research network. International campus. So here we are giving 2.5% weightage to international faculty, 2.5% weightage to international students, 2.5% weightage to inbound exchange, and same 2.5% weightage to outbound exchange students. So if there have been any changes when it comes to your data, your exchange programs, then you please go on the portal of QS and then update it. Plus, you also have the option to submit the data of any of the last 3 academic years, because we understand due to Corona there have been lots of challenges. So you can look at the data of last 3 academic years of yours, and then you can choose whatever you want when it comes to submission on the QS Hub portal for QS rankings. So in fact, this is about it. The ranking methodology of QS. Please feel free to ask if you have any specific questions on this particular part.
If any faculty has any questions, they are requested to ask freely, please. Basically, we are here to know about QS rankings. So if we have any doubt, we can clarify over here. So if there is any doubt in your mind, so please ask from Sachin sir. I think as of now, there is no question, sir. We may continue.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. So as far as the data submission and data updation part is concerned, the data can be updated till 3rd of February 2022. And then Asia rankings gets published every year in the month of November. And World University rankings we publish in the month of June every year. So moving on to the next part, which is, I think, equally or even more important than the rankings, because if you look at rankings per se, then they basically shines light on the universities which are already good. So if you are good enough, you will feature in QS rankings or in NIRF rankings, or for that matter, any other rankings which are there. And rankings to me are like that year-end exam that you have, depends on how well you have prepared, but at that point of time you just need to participate in it and do whatever you can at that particular point of time. But rankings does not necessarily tell you that how you can improve your rank. So say if you are ranked 800, how you can move from 800 to 500 or 300 or 200. That is something which rankings does not tell you, and I believe no ranking gives you that kind of a clear picture about the improvement part. That is the role which is being played by ratings, and that is why we launched QS iGauge ratings in India. We understand, we get the data of close to 250 universities from India, but that's it. And we have close to 1,000 universities, but we have close to 40,000 colleges as well. So we were not doing anything for colleges earlier, because rankings are for universities only and colleges were not allowed to participate. Then we introduced QS iGauge ratings in India, which are open for both universities and colleges. And we launched it a few years back, and there have been lots of institutions which took advantage of it, and they have kind of improved a lot. So why do you need evaluation? And ratings are also a kind of evaluation, or for that matter, NAAC is our Indian assessment and accreditation system, which is again doing a fantastic job, as Professor Prasad mentioned, because be it rankings or ratings, they basically pushes you to improve your performance. They basically push you to improve your performance when it comes to publications, when it comes to improving on lots of other parameters, be it the faculty quality, be it your infrastructure, or be it your teaching and learning, or be it your even social society related aspects and things like that. So ratings and rankings are important to, of course, to foster that culture of performance. It quantifies everything. It tells you where do you stand, and then the next step, of course, is to understand how to improve upon your performance and how to reach in the next possible bracket which is there. So India is, of course, the largest education system in the world that we have. Thousands of colleges, close to 1,000 universities. There are lots of institutions which are trying to improve themselves, which are trying to achieve global benchmarks. But before that, I believe they need to improve upon themselves and attain the national benchmarks. And that is where the role of QS Gauge rating comes into picture. It certainly, puts and put the teams in a position where they are more accountable. And I strongly believe that improving the quality standards of an institute is not merely the responsibility of quality assurance cell, because an institute is eventually the sum total of all the departments that you have. And if a university has 20 departments, and if all of those 20 departments are doing fantastic job in terms of teaching, learning, providing best of the services to students in terms of even student recruitment, placements, infrastructure, in terms of research publications, in terms of getting accolades from the industry, from corporates, then university itself, without doing much, will become one of the best university. So that is where the role of each and every department, each and every HOD, each and every faculty member comes into picture. And then it certainly ends up at improving the performance of the participating institute. Just to give you a basic understanding, as the difference between rankings and ratings, though I'm sure we all understand it, but when, and I've been to close to 300 universities and colleges in different parts of the country, we get to understand that lots of them are participating in rankings, and year on year they keep participating in rankings without getting better at it, without getting a better rank, because you are essentially repeating the same thing without actually looking at the internal quality improvement. But if you work on the other way around, if you improve the quality from on all the angles, on all the parameters, on all the functions of all the departments of your institute, then rankings are just a byproduct of that. So you don't actually need to prepare for rankings specifically. You rather need to prepare in doing a fantastic job from academic perspective, from research perspective, from getting excellent placements. If you are a placement, be it a private college or even a government college, getting those accolades from the industry, from the corporates, then rankings are just a byproduct of that we strongly believe, and that is what we also convey to the academic institutions. But rankings are always a relative performance. As Professor Lakshmi mentioned, we need to quantify things. At times it becomes very difficult, because if we look at QS rankings, you are getting the data of 6,000 universities from 80 different countries, and there is so much of diversity even within the country. If we look at our country, we have technology focused universities, we have liberal arts universities, we have state government, central government, we have non-affiliating kind of government universities, we have music university, Sanskrit university, dance university, and so on. It's a challenging task to put them on the same platform and then kind of rank them. That's why, if you have noticed, the parameters are very generic in nature, very generic when it comes to the global rankings of universities, because we can't really get into the specification of each and every university. If we do that, then we cannot compare them. So we are kind of looking at the perception part of it, the kind of academic reputation that you have built over a period of time, the kind of reputation that you have built amongst the corporate, amongst the enterprises, and then the kind of research work that you are doing. That again is something which is the responsibility of, I think, every higher education institute which is out there. But ratings are something in which we can get into the details of each and every institute. We can take lots of data from the institute. We can get into the specifications, and we can at the end give you a detailed feedback as well to understand as where do you stand. So rankings always creates a hierarchical list, be it NIRF or QS or THE or any other ranking for that matter. It changes every year. We publish these rankings every year. So does the government of India. So does Ministry of Education. And it has limited indicators. Even NIRF also will have limited indicators forever, because though you can create a separate list of engineering institutions or medical institutions, but within that there can be lots of variations, and that is something which we can't really get into the details of that sort. So we have to have a list, we have to have some standard parameters, and then accordingly we need to rank the institutions. More emphasis on research, because at global level, and here we are referring to QS rankings primarily. At global level, I think if you want to become an institute of a global standard, then research has to be at the center of it. Research and internationalization. If these two things are your focus area, and then only, the university should expect to get into the top quartile of QS rankings that we have. On the other hand, ratings are much more inclusive and adaptive. QS iGauge ratings are curated and designed to suit the requirement of Indian higher education system. We understand it very well, and then after taking feedback from lots of academicians, lots of educationists, we actually kind of designed the parameters and methodology of QS iGauge rating. It is fixed for a 2-year time period. So like NAC is a Ministry of Education initiative. It's a private initiative, and then there are many more indicators. So I'll in brief show you as what all parameters do we have, what kind of methodology do we have, and how you can actually take advantage of that particular aspect as well. It gives slightly lower emphasis on research. Does not mean that research is not important, but we understand that when we are looking at Indian perspective, and particularly the colleges, we are hardly having any academic research being done at college level, largely, though there are lots of good institutions and they are doing pretty well. But overall, this situation is not that good when it comes to research, as they are, of course, solving lots of other problems. The problem of reach, problem of providing education at a very affordable cost and all. But we have still given some weightage to research even in QS iGauge ratings. Why ratings? So it's a 2-year learning and improvement curve. Once the institute goes through the ratings, after that they get a 2 years time period to work on the weaknesses, work on the lacunae if there are any, and then improve upon the various aspects. It formalizes areas of strength and weaknesses. At times, as the leaders of academic institutions, we certainly want to improve upon various aspects, but at times it becomes quite difficult to understand as what exactly to improve upon, what all parameters do we have. And even if we identify the parameters, then within those parameters, what all sub-parameters do we have? How do we tackle them? Then if we start working on them, then what are the national benchmarks for it? How should I benchmark against some of the best institutions which are there? And that is exactly what QS iGauge rating does. Information gathering and data streamlining. I think NIRF did a fantastic job when it comes to one. Of course, they kind of pushed the academic institutions into this. Not many academic institutions were open to participate in global rankings. And then when Ministry of Education introduced something at national level, then apart from lots of other things, apart from fostering that culture, it has kind of streamlined the data gathering processes as well. Nowadays, the data is centralized at lots of academic institutions, those who are open to participate. be it NIRF or NAC or QS or QS iGauge rating. But a few years back, that was not the case. Not many institutions had the data at a centralized place, and the quantification part was certainly missing. We had lots of quality aspects. Institutional heads were aware that the alumni are doing well, they are coming back, and they are doing well in corporates. Faculty members are publishing papers and everything else, but when you look at the institutional data as a whole, that aspect was missing, and I think that is now getting done at most of the academic institutions. QS iGauge can also play a role in that particular part. The ratings certainly highlights the areas which are not covered in rankings. As I explained earlier, rankings cannot have too many parameters. Rankings cannot get into the details of each and every institute, and rankings cannot look at the diversity related aspects. They cannot be overall inclusive. Some or the other institute will certainly miss something or the other in the overall ranking process, because there is so much of diversity, so much of heterogeneity, and then you are bringing them under under one platform and then doing the rankings. So that is something which can be done only by ratings or only by systems like NAC, which is already doing it. It validates data for future planning. Once you quantify your areas of strength, and once you quantify your areas of weaknesses as well, the lacunae, then you can think of improving it. Until you quantify, you don't really know what to improve upon. Then it supports institutions' goals and KPIs as well. Nowadays, we are talking more about the KPIs though this term, I think a few years back, was not there in the academic parlance, but now more and more institutions are open to look at it from that perspective as well. And then it's a strategic management tool for detailed audit. It certainly helps the management, be it the principal or the director, or in case of private institutions, be it the chairman or promoters of the institute, in understanding the overall picture and then taking the corrective measures as well. So this is first of its kind initiative that we have in the country. QS iGauge is meant for only Indian universities and colleges. It's a very comprehensive audit, as I have already explained. It's a future-ready system to promote excellence and quality in India, rating mechanism developed for India for institutions with international aspirations. And it's a very rigorous evaluation and validation process through quality, primary and secondary data. So during the process, we take some data from the university. When I say some, it's actually quite comprehensive. Data requirements are even more than that of NAC. And then we also reach out to your stakeholders, be it your faculty members or your alumni or your existing students, to understand as, what do they think about you, because your students, your faculty members and your alumni are eventually the brand ambassador of the institute. If they are happy and if they have all good things to say, then of course the institute is also likely to have better quality, or say better quality faculty members in the future, better quality students in the future, and then alumni certainly plays a very important role in the overall ecosystem. Empowering institutions towards capability enhancement. So you do this detailed diagnostic test, and then you can further look at the improvement part of the institute. QS iGauge rating was launched in India on 21st March 2018 by the late former President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee. And since then, we have rated close to 150 universities and colleges in the country. Lots of private universities, lots of government universities as well. And there are lots of colleges, I think they have benefited immensely from this initiative. So how does QS iGauge support your institute? I think I don't need to get into the details of it. It's kind of repetitive. It's a comprehensive audit, data management, your data gets streamlined. So when the audit process begins, we allocate one analyst, one resource from our side to help your POC in understanding the data requirements, and then that person will guide you throughout the process in understanding data requirements and what kind of supporting documents you need to provide. Balance scorecard. So at the end of it, you will get to know where do you stand, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then it will also highlight the points, whereas how you can further improve upon your weaknesses. Dedicated badges, I'll explain this particular part. Of course, the branding, marketing, they also plays a very important role, more prominently for private institutions, but even for government institutions these days, because I think there is competition and everyone is highlighting their strengths in big way. So there are two primary reasons why colleges and universities go for QS-iGauge rating. And I'm talking about the quality improvement aspect first. Basis on these parameters, and when the audit process is complete, we'll give you a very detailed document to help you understand as where do you stand at this point of time. So these 9 parameters, and I'll explain which 9. These 9 parameters are further divided into close to 70 sub-parameters. So you will get a detailed report on those 70 sub-parameters, which will tell you as where do you stand. And then you can clearly identify the areas to work upon, and then it provides you a 2 years plan which you can work upon in the internal quality improvement and get to the next level as well. The second part, of course, when it comes to private higher education institutions, marketing and advertising plays a very important role. You need to, there is a need to constantly differentiate yourself from the competition, from other academic institutions. If you're doing well, then there is a need to highlight it, because you may be doing a fantastic job, but you need to tell it to the world. These are the times where all the prospective students, parents, or even other academic institutions are constantly keeping a watch on things like social media and going through the details of each and every institute to understand as how well they are doing in various parameters. So these are two primary reasons why universities and colleges go for it. In the parameters for QS-iGauge rating, there are 7 core criteria. 7 parameters are there in core criteria. We have teaching and learning, faculty quality, employability, diversity and accessibility, facilities, social responsibility, then governance and structure. These are mandatory for any participating institute. And then in advanced criteria, we have 6 options. Out of them, research is mandatory for a university, whereas a college has the option to choose any 2 out of the 6. And university can select any one from the remaining 5 plus research. So overall, we do the ratings on 9 different parameters, and 1400 points are there to be attained at the maximum level. These are the badges that we give. So just to give the institute or a participating university as a certificate that you have been through the process and this is where you stand, we award them with certain badges. And these badges could be platinum, starting from the bottom, then platinum, diamond, gold, silver, and bronze. To get a platinum badge, the college or the university need to score 90% marks out of 1400, which I explained in the previous slide. To get a diamond rating, they need to score 75%. And to get a gold rating, they need to score 770 points, which is 55% marks. So the university or the college will get 1 badge for the overall performance of the institute, and then they will get 1 badge each for each of the parameter as well. To give you an example, the college may score, say, a diamond in teaching and learning, a gold in faculty quality, a diamond in employability, a silver in diversity, something else in facilities, and something else in social responsibility. So that is where you get the opportunity to highlight your strength to the market. So wherever you do well, you can certainly use those badges in the marketing, promotions, and outreach. And wherever you don't do so well, that is probably an area where you need to work upon a lot, and you need to kind of improve upon various aspects which are there within those parameters. Just to give you an idea, these are the nationwide scores of colleges and universities, overall average and lowest scores. So one university scored 1194, 554 and 895, and then the average scores of various parameters that we have. The nationwide scores of colleges, and so these are more towards the universities, and then we have colleges. Lots of institutions have been through it. Probably for a detailed list, you can go through the website of QSiGauge. Other than the ratings of the entire university or college, we also do the ratings department wise. So a particular department of the university can also go through the ratings. So say, for example, faculty of management can separately participate in QSiGauge ratings. Faculty of engineering can separately participate. Faculty of law can separately participate in ratings. Again, this is basically to take that ideal of ours further, that every department is going to play an important role in the overall excellence of the university. So the various departments of the university can get into the details of their data, and they can get to understand as how well they are performing on various parameters. Plus, this will also help in fostering that healthy competition within the departments, because nowadays it's all about performance, be it your performance in research or in placements or in admissions or in anything else. But here, the department within departments, a healthy competition can be brought out, and they can certainly get to understand the areas to work upon as well. Whereas if you are a college which is focusing on just one faculty, for example, if you are just an education college which provides B.Ed degrees and M.Ed degrees, and only education related programs, then you can participate in subject ratings instead of the comprehensive QSiGauge rating. If you are an engineering college, then you can participate in the engineering subject ratings, and you can skip participating in the comprehensive rating of QSiGauge. We also did something called E-Lead certification, because at the onset of Corona, we realized that there were lots of institutions which were quick in developing the infrastructure which was needed to continue the academic activities, and that can be, deploying an LMS or having the necessary backend infrastructure which was needed, or providing the necessary support to the faculty members to continue taking the classes. But they were not actually getting the opportunity to highlight it in some or the other ways. So we kind of launched E-Lead certification in 2019 at the onset of Corona, and then we went through the data of close to 120 universities and colleges, those who chose to participate, and then kind of gave them certificate after auditing their facilities related to e-learning. I mean, related to their preparedness when it comes to conducting the academic activities even during Corona. So these are the three products that we have under QSiGauge. Of course, there are lots of ways in which the institutions can use it in marketing, promotions, and branding. I'll not get into the details of this. I think that is not needed at this point of time. And yeah, but we have done it for the state government of Andhra Pradesh as well. We signed an MOU with the Andhra Pradesh government, and then we did QSiGauge rating of 7 of their state government universities. And of course, the objective was not to use it in marketing, because government does not use it that way. The state government institutions may not have budget for marketing. But it was more about understanding the institute from data perspective. Where does the institute stands? How well they are doing in various parameters, and what are the areas in which they need to improve upon. So we have done it for 7 government universities of Andhra Pradesh. And then lots of reputed institutions like BITS Pilani or IIT Gandhinagar or Tata Institute of Social Sciences. And also Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar has been through the process of QSI gauge. So this was about the that 1,000 feet view of QSI gauge rating as well as QS rankings. QS rankings, I have already explained the methodology, so there's nothing much to get into the details of it. But QSI gauge rating, we have a methodology which gets into the details of, though we have 9 parameters, but what is next to that? What are those 70 parameters? What are the benchmarks that we have? And I'll probably take you through that in brief. I think we have time, and I will not take, it's 4:45. I'll not take more than 20-25 minutes beyond that. So let me just share another screen with you.
Meanwhile, I can request to each and every faculty member who has joined with us that if they have any doubt to be cleared, we may ask from sir. And from overall elaboration, as of now, we came to know that how we as a team can acquire a great rankings for our university and colleges as well. So if any clarity is to be received in any point, faculties are most welcome.
Shall I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so hope this screen is also visible.
Yes, visible.
Yeah. So these are the parameters that I have elaborated upon. So when starting the audit process, we basically want to understand more about the institute, whether they are a STEM focused institute, STEM as in whether they have majority of the students in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or it's other way around, because some parameters are customized to suit the requirement of a STEM focused institute, and then the benchmarks are a bit higher in some of the cases for them. So this entire rating of QSI gauge is a combination of 3 sources. We take data from 3 sources. Close to 70% weightage is given to the data that institute provides us, and data requirements are there. Close to 25% data comes from the surveys that we conduct. So we basically create links, online links of surveys, and then we reach out to your students, your faculty members, and your alumni. Of course, through the institute, we don't do it directly. We'll share the link with the institute, and then institute will share it with the respective stakeholder, and then they will respond on various questions that we have formed in it. So, and this methodology, I think, is going to be very useful for any university or college, regardless of whether you participate in QSI gauge rating or not. I will share this methodology with you, and you can still use it to understand the benchmarks which are there. You can still use it to understand various subparameters which are there. First one is, of course, teaching and learning, which is for 250 points. So so we have divided every parameter into lots of subparameters. Teaching and learning is divided into 9 subparameters. First one is faculty-student ratio, which is the ratio of total number of students to that of total number of instructors. In case of a STEM focused institute, and STEM as in if 65% or more students are in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, then we consider you a STEM focused institute. If it is other way around, I mean, if you have 65% or more students in non-STEM, then we consider you a non-STEM institute, arts, commerce, liberal arts, etc. And then if the ratio is somewhere in between, then we consider you a mixed category institute. So say, for example, if you are a mixed category institute and your faculty student ratio is 1:20, then you will get full 30 marks in this. If your student faculty ratio is somewhere between 20 to 40, say it is 1:25, 28, 30, 32, then you will get some marks on pro rata basis. And if your student faculty ratio is more than 1:40, then you will not get any marks in this category. Likewise, for each and every criteria that we have, each and every sub indicator that we have a benchmark, then we have an upper threshold, we have a lower threshold, and on the right hand side we have the respective points which are allocated to that particular indicator.
Excuse me, can I ask something?
Yeah, please.
I personally have not understood the scale down concept, because every point shows, like for example, for the STEM 10 scale down to 30. What does that imply?
Yeah. So, and here we are talking about student faculty ratio.
Okay,
so
yeah.
It implies that if the student faculty ratio is 1:10 or better than that, 9, 8, 7, 6, then the institute will get full marks. 30 are the maximum points which are allocated to this particular indicator. But if the student faculty ratio is say 1:15, then on that scale between 10 to 30, they will get some points. So it will be like 30 points divided by the lower threshold minus the upper threshold. It comes to 1.5 marks for one, if the student faculty ratio goes down by 1%, then 1.5 marks will be reduced from the 30 points.
Okay.
Hope I could answer your question.
Okay, so these 30, 40, 50, etc. the thresholds.
Yes. So here, though in this line we have mentioned 3 things, we just need to look at any one of them, because the institute will fall under one of the category. If we are looking at a STEM, so say in case of 1:10, if we are giving 30 marks, even if your student faculty ratio is 1:9, you will still get 30 marks. But if it goes to 1:11, so it went down by one percentage point, then you will lose 1.5 marks in this. So it will be like 28.5. If it is 1:12, then you will get 27 marks. If it is 1:20, then 20 is exactly between 10 and 30. So you will get 15 marks out of 30.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to TL2, that is teaching student satisfaction. So this is the survey of students. So we will create a survey link and we will share it with the institute, and then we'll request the institute to share it with the respective students. So in response to that question, and that will be purely about the satisfaction of students when it comes to teaching, the academic part of the institute. In the options, there will be 5 of them. So it will be like highly satisfied, satisfied, neutral, dissatisfied, highly dissatisfied. If we get 90% positive responses, satisfied or highly satisfied, then the institute will get 30 marks, 90% or more positive responses. If the positivity response rate is somewhere between 90 to 60, then again some marks on the scale, and if it is less than 60%, then no marks in this category. So there is a benchmark which is 90%. There is a lower threshold which is 60%, and then we have maximum marks. So suppose an institute participates, and if they get 75% positive responses, So 75 is exactly between 60 and 90. So they will get 15 marks out of 30. So when we are doing these student surveys, we expect at least 30% of the student population to participate for the survey to be valid. So if you have 10,000 students, at least 3,000 should participate. And overall student satisfaction. This again is a survey of the students. So here the question that is going to be asked to them is about their overall satisfaction from the institute, and that can be anything. I mean, I am happy with the way academic activities are being done, but I'm not happy with the infrastructure, or I'm not happy with the way I'm handled at the reception, or if they are facing some administration related challenge. So it could be anything, but the overall satisfaction of the student level from the institute. This again is a student survey, same benchmarks, and we have 30 points which are allocated to it. TL4 is about degree completion rate, 90% scaled down to 50% again. If 90% students are completing degrees within the stipulated time, then 30 marks. If it is somewhere between 50 and 90, then some marks on pro rata basis. If it is less than 50, then of course it's an area of concern for the institute as well. And contact hours per week. So again, for a STEM category institute, we expect it to be 30 hours per week. That is like 5 days working, or even 6 days working. In case of non-STEM and mixed, 25 hours. This will be taken from the timetable which might have been shared with the students. And there may be lots of departments, so we'll look at the average of that. TL6 is about self-study hours per day. It's a student survey. TL7 is about interactive teaching. We share all the best practices in learning. So if you have practices like mentor-mentee program, peer group learning support, or say additional support for learning, then you will get 10 points for each of these. Learning management system is again an option nowadays. Most of the institutes have it. 25 marks. Further studies, 25% scaled down to 5%. So out of the total student population, if close to 25% students are going for further studies, then you will get full 15 marks. If it is somewhere between 25 to 5, then some marks, and if it is less than 5, then no marks in this category. Moving on to the next parameter, that is faculty quality. Here we are looking at, we have given weightage to net qualified, what percentage of faculty members are net qualified or set qualified, and what percentage of faculty members are having PhDs, and 5% weightage to international PhDs as well. Overall 20 points. Retention rate of the faculty members, in case of government, I don't think that will be a challenge. FQ3 is about faculty satisfaction with the institution. This is about this is a survey of the faculty members. So we'll take their feedback about their satisfaction from the institute. FQ4 is about work experience outside academia or external exposure as part of academia. FQ5 is faculty development programs. If you are, if the respective departments are meeting the statutory requirements, then that is fine. Then publications per faculty. Here we will look at the number of publications per faculty member in Scopus in last 5 years. Next parameter is employability. So I'll quickly rush through it. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask. Employability is another indicator. So first parameter is campus employer presence, the number of companies which are visiting the campus. So if you are getting, say, close to 2%, if the total number of companies which are visiting the campus is close to 2% of total student population, then you will get 4 marks. or more than 200. The other option in EP1 is career counseling services. So number of full-time or part-time career counselors working on campus, number of interview training, CV writing workshops the institute might have arranged, facilitating online career portal with access to jobs, and at least one on-campus career fair in last 12 months. Employment rate is also one of the parameters in it. We have given 40 points to it. EP3 is about student satisfaction with career services. So proportion of students satisfied with on-campus career guiding services. 75% is scaled down to 50%, which is for 30 points. Then we have EP4, which is alumni satisfaction with the institution. That again, that is a survey of alumni. So we expect that of your current student strength, at least 10% of that particular number we get, equivalent to that 10%, we get the responses from the alumni. If you have 10,000 students, then we expect at least 1,000 alumni to participate. Alumni satisfaction with career success, proportion of alumni satisfied with their career after graduation from the institution. And then oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah, we were at employability. Yeah, student satisfaction with career services, then alumni satisfaction with institution, alumni satisfaction with career success, extracurricular activities, so number of students involved in the clubs, student societies, associations on campus, which is, if it is 30% or more, then full 30 marks. If it is less than 10%, then no marks in this category again. Diversity and accessibility is the fourth parameter that we have. So 1 point for every 1% of students from other state or union territory, maximum 25 points. I understand the state government institutions may have some cap as well, directed by the state government. And DA2 is about international diversity, 15 points for number of nationalities represented at the campus, and 5 points for number of nationalities represented by the total number of faculty members on campus. So basically bringing that internationalization aspect into picture. DA3 is about national diversity for students. So we not only look at the number of countries which are represented, but also number of states or UTs being represented at the campus. Then diversity of students within the state. So even within the state, we understand in case of state government universities, there may be some cap on the outside state students. So we can look at the diversity within the state as well. As you know, just to understand how popular or what kind of a brand the university has built within the state itself. DA4 is about expenditure on scholarships and bursaries, student scholarships, fee waiver. DA6 is about differently abled students, the number of differently abled students on campus, then 10 points for institutions, policy accommodating needs of, because you may have a policy, but you can't really force students to join, but still if you have a policy, then you will get 10 points. Then gender ratio, this is something I believe this goes in favor of all women universities. In fact, if you have more than 50% female students on campus, then you will get some points on this. And same goes for faculty members as well. Financial equality, so 5 points each for institutions policy, scholarship policy accommodating students based on socio-economic status, the number of students availing financial aid, fee waiver from the institution. DA9 is about regional and linguistic diversity of the faculty members, number of distinct native states or UTs represented by faculty members, different languages being spoken at campus. Facilities, it's all about the infrastructure, so 2 points per facility. We have fitness gym, swimming pool, indoor sports facilities, outdoor sports facilities, sports coach, mass, canteen, or safe assembly area, accommodation for staff, accommodation of staff quarters, bank, ATM, etc. Medical facilities, I'm sure most of the institutions have it these days. FC3 is a survey of the students when it comes to the sanitation related facilities, the sanitation, hygiene, and infrastructure. FC4 is about on campus catering, quality, and affordability. FC5 is about student accommodation. FC6 is about IT services, primarily the availability of Wi-Fi at the campus, Wi-Fi to the students, to the faculty members, as that has also become critical in the current times. FC7 is about MIS, whether the institute is using a full-fledged student management system or ERP system at the campus for admissions, exam, report keeping, etc. FC8 is about student safety. FC9 is about library facilities. FC10 is about facilities for differently abled, whether you have ramps, railings, special toilets, visual aid center, user-friendly lift for differently abled students or not. Next is social responsibility. This again is about the involvement of the university in the community. SR1 is about mechanism system for social involvement. So proportion of students actively participating in NCC, NSS, Red Cross, Eco Club, or other socially engaging activities. This list is not exhaustive here. If you have something else which we have missed, that can also be considered. SR2 is about community outreach activities. So how deeply the institute is involved with the community, be it, adopting the villages or working for the local municipal corporation or doing something for even village panchayat or some specific activities related to that. SR3 is about recognition for social development. The number of awards, medals, appreciations won by the institute from various bodies, be it from the Nagar Nigam or even Gram Panchayat or even the state government or some other body. SR4 is about environmental impact. So whether you are, you are having the policies when it comes to sustainability, preferably a green audit certificate or green audit certificate. Second is about energy conservation, whether you are doing, whether the university is undertaking any specific activities related to the electric, say electric power vehicles or even solar energy, how is it being used, or if you have any plans for that. Then water conservation, then transportation and recycling of waste. SR5 is about funding for social outreach. So other than undertaking the activities, if there is any funding is also available, or if any such ventures are being funded by the institute which are working in these specific areas of social work. Governance and structure is the last core criteria. So whether you have an ethics committee, I understand in some of the cases, as the structure of a state government university is different, some of it may not be possible, but I'm sure most of it can be there at any kind of institute. Board of studies, then faculty resource management, compliance and report, code of conduct policy for students, faculty and admin staff, publication of annual report, institutional development plan in last 12 months, accreditation, if you are accredited by NAC as an institute, or NABH in case of a hospital, or AACSB in case of a management college, then 50 points for that. And then the representation of alumni and senior students on the institutional governance, some sort of governing council, or some committee where they can have a say in the overall decision-making process of the institute. Then in advanced rating criteria, we have arts and culture. That is an option. That is an option available to the institutions. If they think they can do well on it, they can select that. There are sub parameters like concerts and exhibitions, credits and cultural awards, investment towards arts and culture facilities. Then we have. Second option is entrepreneurship. So training, incubation center, alumni with entrepreneurship experience, students with entrepreneurship aspirations, faculty with entrepreneurship experience. So all these advanced criteria are basically to take care of that speciality of that particular institute. Some of them are doing fantastic work in the field of liberal arts. Some of them are doing fantastic job when it comes to research and innovation and incubation centers promoting entrepreneurship, etc. So they can select the one which they think where they are doing well and which will suit their requirement. Then we have third one, which is research. It is mandatory for a university, but for a college, this is optional. For a university, we'll look at citations per faculty, Scopus published papers only, citations per paper, then specialized research centers, external research funding, be it from the government or private, seed funding, primarily to promote the entrepreneurship and funding the startups. RE6 is about proposals submitted and accepted. So number of research funding proposals submitted per faculty member, and then the number of papers approved or accepted by the funding agency. RE7 is about in-house indexed journals. If you have any such journals, any two, be it in Scopus or in UGC Care, then you will get at least 2 publications and 5 points. Then constitution of independent editorial board comprising of external reviewers, and then 5 points for periodicity of journal publications. 15 points overall. Innovation again is an option for 100 points. Intellectual property, spin-off companies, external consultations, and then commercialization of intellectual property. Internationalization is again another criteria. And academic development is the last criteria that we have in this rating methodology. Here we look at learning and development center, we look at building academic networks, international level at national level, program strength, and then academic freedom for faculty and students, which is right to engage in intellectual debate without fear of censorship, right to pursue pedagogical methodology, then choose the courses for delivery, etc. So that is in fact it about the rating methodology of QS-iGauge. I will in any case share this methodology with Dr. Gupta, regardless of whether you decide to participate in it or not. If you go through it and if you try to implement it, it will certainly help you in some or the other way. So if you have any questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, I'll conclude them.
So if faculties have any doubt, they are most welcome.
Okay. So I hope I could explain the methodology in detail, and unfortunately, Ashwin Fernandez could not join. Actually, he participated in the, we are having that Vibrant Gujarat Summit in Gujarat in second week of January, and before that they are doing a series of events. So CM office invited him to do a presentation on rankings there, and he was supposed to join, but due to some reason he could not join today. So apologies for that, and that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir, for the nice elaboration on QS rankings procedure. And you showed the overall procedure in a very simple way, sir. And most important, that we took your time from the very busy schedule of yours. And definitely we and other faculties from other departments and from other colleges learned a lot about it, that how QS ranking forms are to be filled. And I hope everyone is well aware of the various aspects and the themes concerning the workshop. So now how as a team, we have to work hard on achieving these important benchmarks, absolutely, that are very necessary in order to get good rankings worldwide. So thank you everyone who have joined us from different affiliated colleges and from MLSU University itself, who made this workshop possible with their opinion and views. A special thanks to our IQC director, Professor N. Lakshmi ma'am, who are always with us and who always support with us as a stronger pillar. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we had a greater time, sir, having you all. Looking forward to many more such workshops that will definitely focus at how we as a team can improve overall rankings of university as such. To conclude, I wish you all a great success in all your pursuits. Now I would request everyone to please stand up for national anthem. Pritam. I think there is some technical glitch, so they are just playing. Just wait for some time.
Sure.
Sir, please signal me when to play, okay? The song. Hello, am I audible?
Sir, I have already instructed that we have to play right now.
Okay. So is it audible?
Yes, it is audible.
Okay, so should I replay or what?
Yes, absolutely. We are waiting for 5 minutes.
But I played it and it didn't came. Okay, just a minute. Again, I retry. Is it visible now?
No. Yes.
Audible now? Audible
Not
now?
audible, visible.
Okay, I am not playing one second. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जगत गंगा तव शुभ नाम जाने तव शुभ आशीष माने गाये तव जय गाथा जन गण मन जय जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय जय हे जय जय हे जय जय हे
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you, Professor Lakshmi, and everyone else who took time to join it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.